Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are tuning in for the very first time today, I want to say a genuine and enthusiastic welcome, and I can promise you right now that what you are about to hear in this video is going to make you look at the word influence in a completely different way than you ever have before. And if you have been here for a while, you already know that on this channel we do not shy away from the numbers. We do not just say that Jungkook is influential and leave it there as a vague, unsubstantiated claim. We go to the data. We go to the industry reports. We go to the professional analysts and the fashion media and the marketing firms whose entire job is to measure and quantify cultural impact in real, concrete, financial terms. And today, the numbers we are going to look at are so staggering, so consistently astonishing across so many different contexts and campaigns and brand partnerships, that by the time we reach the end of this video, I genuinely believe that even the most enthusiastic and well-informed member of this community is going to learn something that surprises them. So please hit that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and let us get into every single one of these extraordinary numbers right now. Let us start with the number that is at the heart of today's conversation, because it is perhaps the most perfectly constructed demonstration of the Jungkook effect that has ever been documented in a single piece of content. On May 15, 2026, Calvin Klein posted a video to their official Instagram account. The video was under 10 seconds. It featured only Jungkook's hand revealing the collaboration logo. And it generated $908,000 in media impact value. I want to make sure that the full weight of that lands properly before we move forward, because I think it is easy to read a sentence like that and process it as just another big number in a landscape full of big numbers. So let us slow it down. A video that is under 10 seconds long, shorter than most people's attention span, shorter than it takes to make a cup of coffee, shorter than the time it took you to read the last paragraph, generated close to $1 million in media impact value. Not from a full campaign rollout. Not from a major event or a red carpet appearance or a highly produced photo shoot. From a clip of a hand. Jungkook's hand. Drawing a logo. In under 10 seconds. That single piece of content alone recorded an MIV of $908,000, with the collaborative product selling out immediately upon release. That is not a marketing result. That is a phenomenon. But to truly understand why that number is so extraordinary, you need to understand the context in which it exists and the system used to measure it. Media Impact Value, or MIV, is the measurement framework developed by Launchmetrics, one of the world's leading marketing analytics firms specializing in fashion, luxury, and beauty brands. Launchmetrics works with major global brands to quantify the monetary value of media coverage, social media activity, influencer content, event appearances, and all other forms of brand exposure across every channel and platform. When they calculate MIV, they are taking into account every post, every article, every interaction, every mention, every piece of content generated by or about a specific person or event in relation to a specific brand, and they are assigning it a dollar value based on the reach, the engagement, and the relative prestige of the platform or publication involved. It is a rigorous, data-driven, professionally developed methodology used by the most sophisticated brands and marketing departments in the world. It is not fan enthusiasm expressed in numbers. It is the fashion industry's own measurement system, and when it produces numbers as dramatic as the ones we are about to discuss, the fashion industry pays attention. The limited edition CKJK capsule collection officially launched on May 20, 2026, becoming Jungkook's first official design collaboration with Calvin Klein since becoming the brand's global ambassador in 2023. Fashion specialty media No Manners magazine reported that Jungkook reached an MIV of $3.4 million within 48 hours after officially announcing the first fashion limited edition collection, the 2026 Jungkook for Calvin Klein CKJK collaboration. $3.4 million. In 48 hours. From the announcement of a single collection. That is not the total MIV generated across the entire promotional campaign. That is not the accumulated value over weeks of press coverage and event appearances and social media activity. That is the value generated in the first 2 days after the collaboration was officially announced. The strongest performing content in the campaign was that short Instagram reel posted by Calvin Klein featuring only Jungkook's hand revealing the collaboration logo, which still generated about $908,000 in media impact value. Now let us zoom out and look at the broader timeline, because the 10-second video number and the 48-hour MIV figure do not exist in isolation. They are the latest entries in a series of data points that, when you line them up chronologically, tell a story of commercial impact that has been growing, consistently and dramatically, since the very first day Jungkook and Calvin Klein announced their partnership in 2023. And that growth trajectory is perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the entire story. Per launch metrics data, the first Jungkook x Calvin Klein campaign in 2023 generated $13.4 million in MIV within 48 hours. $13.4 million. In the first 48 hours of his very first Calvin Klein campaign. To put that in perspective, the same data that ranked Jungkook's 2023 Calvin Klein debut at the top of the MIV charts also placed Jeremy Allen White, the critically acclaimed star of the Emmy-winning series The Bear, in second place with $12.7 million, and that was considered an extraordinary result for a beloved and widely celebrated actor. First place is held by BTS member Jungkook, who generated $13.4 million in the same timeframe, the highest in Calvin Klein ambassador history at the time. Number 1. From day one. And then something happened that almost never happens in the world of brand partnerships and celebrity marketing. The numbers got bigger. His return to the public arena at the Calvin Klein Spring-Summer 2026 show in New York, following his mandatory military service discharge, prompted media coverage and echo mentions worth $30.4 million in MIV. $30.4 million. More than double his already record-breaking 2023 debut. And before you assume that this massive jump is simply attributable to the excitement of his return from military service, a logical and understandable explanation, consider what the data reveals about how that MIV was generated. According to Launchmetrics' latest report on Spring-Summer 2026 New York Fashion Week, the K-pop idol generated $30.4 million in media impact value for Calvin Klein. Notably, he did it without a single post on his own social media accounts. Not one post. Not one story. Not one tweet or Instagram upload or any other direct social media activity from Jungkook himself. Jungkook's presence alone accounted for 53% of Calvin Klein's total show performance. His contribution helped the brand achieve the #1 overall ranking, surpassing other brands such as Michael Kors, Coach, and Tory Burch in total MIV. Let me make sure that is absolutely clear. Jungkook attended a Calvin Klein fashion show in New York. He did not post about it. He did not promote it on his channels. He simply showed up. And the media coverage, the social media activity generated by other people talking about his presence, the cultural ripple effect of Park Jungkook being physically present at a fashion event, all of that, generated by other people in response to his mere existence in a room, was worth $30 million. That is not a marketing strategy. That is gravity. That is what it looks like when a person has accumulated such a specific and powerful kind of cultural capital that their presence alone, independent of any active promotional effort, moves markets and dominates conversations and drives a brand to the top of the rankings at the most commercially significant fashion event of the year. He alone contributed to more than 55% of all social media mentions, ahead of stars like Z Pruk and Milk Pansa. His performance not only pushed Calvin Klein to the top of the NYFW rankings but also positioned him as one of the top global fashion ambassadors of 2025. Then came the October 2025 campaign. And the numbers, somehow, kept going up. The next campaign, released in October 2025, drove $20.9 million in MIV in the first 48 hours, a nearly 56% increase over his already record-breaking previous campaign, reports Launchmetrics. 56% growth over a campaign that had itself been record-breaking. That is not a plateau. That is not a brand partnership that is coasting on initial excitement and gradually declining in commercial impact, the way that most celebrity brand relationships eventually do. That is sustained, compounding, measurable growth. That is an ambassador who is not just maintaining their value to a brand but actively increasing it with every new activation, every new campaign, every new piece of content. Additionally, Maker Studio reports also stated that Jungkook's Calvin Klein 2023 campaign increased the parent company's share price by over 20% to $87.93. A 20% increase in a publicly traded company's share price. From a celebrity campaign. That is the kind of commercial impact that gets discussed in boardrooms in business schools and investment analyses, not just fan communities. Now let us talk about the Hublet dimension of this story, because the Calvin Klein numbers are extraordinary in isolation, but when you place them alongside what happened with Jungkook's collaboration with the Swiss luxury watchmaker Hublet, they become part of a larger pattern that is genuinely unprecedented in the history of celebrity brand partnerships. Similar to Calvin Klein, Jungkook's relationship with Hublet has resulted in big media impact value figures. Launched in February with a big celebration in Seoul, the association with the watchmaker drove a total MIV of $32.3 million within 1 week. $32.3 million. In 1 week. From a single brand partnership activation. But it is the comparison figure that truly illustrates the magnitude of what Jungkook brings to a brand relationship. For comparison, Jungkook's announcement garnered 141% more MIV in 1 week than the total MIV obtained by Hublet in a regular month in 2025. 141% more. In a week. Than an entire month. Hublet is not a small brand struggling for relevance. It is one of the most prestigious and recognized luxury Swiss watch manufacturers in the world, with decades of brand equity and a global presence across every major market. And Jungkook, in 7 days, generated more measurable media impact for that brand than they typically generate across 30 days of their entire normal marketing operation. The launch metrics analysts who calculated that figure put it directly to No Manners magazine, and No Manners magazine, the fashion publication that broke much of the data we have been discussing today, responded by doing something significant. No Manners magazine evaluated Jungkook as a fashion and cultural icon. Not an idol. Not a K-pop star. Not even a celebrity. A fashion and cultural icon. Those are words with specific meaning in the fashion world, and they are not applied casually or without basis. They are applied to figures whose influence transcends any single campaign or any single moment and has become part of the permanent landscape of fashion and culture. And Launch Metrics, whose entire professional existence is built around measuring these things objectively, gave No Manners magazine the data they needed to make that assessment with confidence. Let us also discuss something that I think is particularly important for understanding why these numbers keep growing rather than leveling off or declining, and that is the nature of what Jungkook's relationship with Calvin Klein has evolved into. This represents a significant evolution from traditional celebrity endorsement to designer partnership. Unlike traditional celebrity collaborations that focus on endorsement value, Jungkook partnered directly in the design process, according to statements from both the designer and brand leadership. This distinguishes the CKJK collection from standard capsule drops and signals Calvin Klein's confidence in his creative vision. That distinction matters enormously, and I want to make sure we spend a moment on it because I think it is sometimes lost in the excitement of the commercial data. The CKJK collection is not Jungkook's face on Calvin Klein's products. It is Jungkook's identity, Jungkook's aesthetic, Jungkook's personal story expressed through a 20-piece collection that he helped design from the ground up. Calvin Klein described the project as an unprecedented collaboration, highlighting the scale of Jungkook's influence. Unprecedented. That is the word a brand uses when they cannot find a historical comparison for what they are experiencing. When they have looked through their own records and the industry's records and they cannot find another moment that matches what is happening right now. And what is happening right now, when you step back and look at the full picture of everything we have covered today, is something that genuinely reshapes how we should think about the relationship between K-pop, global fashion, and commercial cultural influence. 3 years ago, the idea that a Korean idol would become the #1 most commercially impactful celebrity in Calvin Klein's ambassador history, generating more MIV in the first 48 hours of his first campaign than any other ambassador in the brand's record, would have been considered remarkable but perhaps somewhat isolated. A testament to BTS's global reach, perhaps, rather than to something deeper about Jungkook's specific individual commercial identity. But 3 years of consistent, documented, analytically measured data later, it is clear that what we are witnessing is not a moment. It is a trajectory. Launch Metrics described the release as another successful step in the ongoing partnership between Jungkook and Calvin Klein, pointing to the strong performance of the singer's previous campaigns with the brand. Another successful step. Not a peak. Not a plateau. A step in an ongoing journey that shows no signs of reversing direction. The specific numbers of that journey deserve to be laid out clearly one final time, because I want everyone watching this video to be able to carry these figures with them and share them with confidence when the conversation arises. In 2023, the first Calvin Klein campaign generated $13.4 million in MIV in 48 hours, the highest debut figure in Calvin Klein ambassador history. In October 2025, the next campaign generated $20.9 million in 48 hours, a 56% increase over the already record-breaking 2023 figure. At New York Fashion Week in October 2025, Jungkook's presence without a single social media post of his own generated $30.4 million in MIV, accounted for 53% of Calvin Klein's total show performance, and drove the brand to #1 at Fashion Week above Michael Kors, Coach, and Tory Burch. In February 2026, the Hublot collaboration generated $32.3 million in 1 week, 141% more than Hublot's entire normal monthly MIV figure. In May 2026, a 10-second video of his hand drawing a logo generated $908,000 in MIV. And the total 48-hour MIV from the CKJK launch announcement reached $3.4 million. These are not fan statistics. These are not streaming numbers or social media follower counts or any other metric that operates within the ecosystem of K-pop fandom. These are the fashion industry's own numbers, calculated by the fashion industry's own analysts, using the fashion industry's own methodology. And what they say, in the clearest possible language, is that Park Jungkook has done something in the world of global fashion that no one has done before, and that he is doing it more effectively and more consistently and at greater scale with every passing year. There is one more dimension to this story that I want to address before we close, because I think it is perhaps the most humanly interesting aspect of all of these extraordinary numbers. Jungkook did not plan to be a fashion icon. He did not arrive at Big Hit Entertainment as a 15-year-old trainee with aspirations toward luxury brand partnerships and MIV records and the top ranking at New York Fashion Week. He arrived as a kid who loved music and dancing and who wanted to be on stage. Everything that has happened since the BTS journey, the solo career, the Calvin Klein relationship, the Hublot collaboration, the CKJK collection, the 10-second video that generated close to $1 million in media value, all of it emerged from who he genuinely is. From his actual aesthetic sensibilities. From his real love of motorcycles that became the creative foundation for the CKJK biker-inspired collection. From the specific way he carries himself in clothes, the way he inhabits a space, the way his face communicates something in front of a camera that registers as extraordinary even to people with no prior knowledge of or interest in K-pop. The data is impressive. The numbers are staggering. But what they are ultimately measuring is something very human and very specific, the commercial reflection of a person whose authentic identity resonates with the world in ways that no amount of strategic planning could manufacture. And Army, I think that is the most important thing to take away from all of this. Yes, the $908,000 from a 10-second video is wild. Yes, the $30.4 million from showing up to a fashion show without posting about it is almost impossible to wrap your head around. Yes, the 141% figure on the Hublot comparison is the kind of data point that makes marketing professionals genuinely lose their composure. But behind every single one of those numbers is a person who has been true to himself through an extraordinarily demanding and public career, who has invested his genuine creative identity into everything he does, and who has built something so real and so specific and so unmistakably his that the world, the fashion world, the business world, the mainstream media world, keeps finding new ways to put a dollar amount on it. And every time they try, the number is bigger than the last one. That is the Jungkook effect. And we are, based on every available piece of evidence, nowhere near the end of it. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If any of these numbers surprised you or gave you a new level of appreciation for the full commercial and cultural impact Jungkook has built, please show some love with a thumbs up. It genuinely makes an enormous difference for this channel and I appreciate every single one. If you are not subscribed yet, please hit that button right now because we are going to keep tracking every development in this story and every other major moment in Jungkook's incredible ongoing journey. Drop your most shocking number from today's video in the comments. Which figure hit you the hardest? Was it the 10-second video? The no-post NYFW appearance? The Hublot comparison? I read every comment. Take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next one.